Doing it right now.
Okay, because I think that's going to be a couple of people. So while, as you send that, Louis, can we also put up the minutes and the agenda just really quickly for everyone to see? Hi, Janine. How are you? How's Summer Rising going?
Good morning. Good morning. It's rising. It rises every day. It's doing okay. We've got, a great program downstairs. They did just a fabulous job getting it organized. From day one, it was just like just this great teamwork effort. And up here, it's going well too.
Great.
I see Bill Doyle is here.
Hey, guys.
Yeah, Bill, I didn't know whether you were going to be on. I put on the agenda the high school piece that you sent me.
Yeah, I mean, we can review it if they'd like. I mean, I didn't do a PowerPoint or anything, but we could just scroll through the TCP.
I have it. I have. Are you on a computer or are you calling in?
No, I'm on a computer, but I don't know why it's not having my video go through. It said that the CPU is corrupted or something. So.
Oh, okay. That's good. So I can flash it. I have it ready to flash up, and we can both speak to it.
Sure.
All right. Good. So, here's Mary. Mary, I'm sorry. Were you on the other link? I sent the wrong link. Louis, you sent the updated link?
No, just I'm here by myself today, so we have a few things going on.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to talk about that today too. You're getting a support person today, though, no?
No, it's not that. Yeah, no, she's here. It's just that we had some kids come in that weren't registered. The usual stuff, but it is what it is.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right. So so Louis, can you just flash up the minutes and the?
We'll do the minutes first.
We'll just do the agenda real quick and then the minutes.
Agenda. All right.
Louis, are you on that email with George Carter? We're setting up a meeting.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah, because I can't anymore. All right.
This is what's on the agenda for today.
Okay, if you could flash up the minutes.
And this is all going to be on the Google Drive folder in a second. I just got it just now, so I'm going to put it up. So here is the minutes from last month, June 14th.
And everyone, I just sent a copy of these to all of you.
Yep.
So.
And all of these dates for the new school year should be on your calendar. All the dates are also listed in each calendar invite, and all the dates are listed on the DLT website. So they're kind of everywhere.
Are we not meeting in August?
We are. Oh no! I think did we say we? No, we are. You're right.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, the dates are in. If you go up to the top,
Oh, right. So yeah, it's not
August 16th.
Oh,
yeah.
got it. Okay.
These are extra.
Yep.
No, we typically
don't meet during the summer, so this is why this was here. I highlighted them for us. And then this is the school year.
Those are long minutes.
Yeah.
Louis, you sent the link, right? Why didn't I get it?
You should have gotten it. I replied to all.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
I'm going to the next.
You could scroll up, Louis, for that. I think that's it. Oh. Okay. You can go up more. All right, you go.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah, I just spotted an error on the top. The visit with Flushing and Bryant,
Oh,
Flushing
okay.
High School, was in June, not July 21st.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, good call.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so we all in agreement to submit minutes as is with proposed changes?
Yes,
Yes, anyone disagree? Okay, so minutes are submitted as is with proposed changes. Okay, so just to go over a couple of things, as I'm rolling out this meeting, I keep saying, well, this meeting is going to be a quick meeting, but there are so many different things happening that I'm going to try to make sure we get everything out in a short period of time because I know it is the summer and I do value your time. So first, I would like to congratulate Frances. I see Frances Gonzalez on this meeting. Frances is the principal. She's the principal of President's Council. She is the president of President's Council. Congratulations, Frances, and we welcome you onto our DLT unless you will be appointing someone to sit in your stead. So let us know.
Thank you. Good morning. So far, to me, I haven't appointed anyone.
Okay, perfect. So welcome, Frances, and I think you've always been on our DLT emails anyway, so we're just going to continue to do that. You have all the dates available to you. So we're looking forward to having you on our team. Secondly, we want to welcome back Joseph DiBenedetto and congratulate him. He just won president of the CEC again. So welcome, Joe, and we're happy to have you back here on DLT with us.
Thank you. Happy to be here as well. Thank you.
Yeah. So, so as we go through today, I think I do want to start with Gus and his presentation. So, so we can move forward just around our work with SLTs and what that's going to look like this summer, as well as the high school goals for the DCEP. So welcome, Gus, and Bill as well, Bill Doyle. I know you're going to be working together.
Let's talk about, oh, there's Bill.
I'm here.
Yeah, okay, so you want to show the document, or should I get it up, Bill?
I can share it.
Okay. Superintendent Lisney's team sent us their draft of the DCEP sections in high schools. And just to remind everybody, it is a much larger task than in the past because there are many more sections than they've done before. You know, one of the things that I want to say is, and Bill, feel free to chime in, is
Sure.
that we're getting these instructional initiatives that I know the superintendent is going to go over in a few minutes. So I view this as sort of an evolving document going into September, because these initiatives are probably only the first of several that we're going to be getting. So as we get new things and, you know, things become clearer for next academic year, the document will probably need some adjustment. So it is a work in progress, just like the schools. We call it a living document. So, Bill, do you want to just give us the highlights of each section? So, and
Sure.
I did include that. I think it's in what everybody received. So everybody already has the draft to look at their leisure. And this will be incorporated into the a full DCEP with the sections that we talked about in previous meetings based on the district data and the biennial review and all these other things that we've talked about that District 25 is doing such a good job on. So take it away, Bill.
So I can basically go over each section. I'm not sure how much time we want to spend on each section, but to give you just kind of a broad overview, our priority needs for the district is to focus in on those subpopulations, specifically our MLLs, which are multi-language learners, our SWD, students with disabilities, and our students in temporary housing. So we had to go by a lot of old data because we haven't had regents in quite some time caused by the pandemic. And we've also kind of triangulated with, you know, observing the schools, observing the remote classrooms and seeing, you know, what supports would be needed. So the root cause for a lot of this work was showing that there was a lack of in-person services, obviously from the pandemic. And the focus here is improving students' literacy levels. So when we look at the actual goal, we're going to be using baselines for next year, and this is all new. Just so, and can everyone see this document? Let me just check that everyone can see it because I can't see what I'm.
No, we can see it.
So the screener that we're using, and again, this is brand new. It's going to be math growth. We're going to use that for ELA and for math. And, you know, we're striving for a 3% increase by June 2022 from 71 to 74% for all students in the subgroup achieving proficiency level measured by the Regents exams. And again, this is more of a turn towards, right, we definitely want to help students with social emotional aspects, but we also have to backstop and have rigorous instruction for our students. And I think that, you know, this week at the principals are going into their professional learning, that's really going to be a highlight. And I know that, you know, the superintendent Lindsay and her team, we're going to have PL on Wednesday, and it's really going to be dedicated to how do we get back to that academically rigorous classroom for the summer and obviously for September. For this particular goal, we're also focusing on the MLLs, and we're striving for, again, that 3% increase. And you can see here that the rates are lower for the MLL as compared to the all students. For SWD, they were originally at 66%. We're trying to move up 3% to 69%, and students in temporary housing from 67 to 70%. This is the progress monitoring, and again, we're going to use the MAP growth assessment and striving for 3% increase at the end of the year. So we're breaking this down into 1.5% for November, and then 1.5% increase for April. This is the actual plan for ELA. So again, this part focuses more on those new initiatives. So we've continued to use the advanced literacies from Noni Lasso, and we're going to continue to push that out into schools and to support them with that, especially with their ILTs. And what we've done here is we did a crosswalk between the high priority learning standards and what our schools are having challenges with. So what you'll see here are those particular standards that we want to focus on. A lot of what we're going to be working with the principals and the APs are building these professional learning communities so that there's consistent support for teachers on all levels. And so part of the focus is using critical friends groups, and that would be for principals as well as APs, and then that will filter down to the ILT that would then work with the teachers. So it's a kind of an umbrella approach to providing PL to the entire schools in our caseload, the 25 high schools. For mathematics, again, focusing on our subpopulations and identifying those gaps that students are having. And again, it's a similar thing, the COVID challenges that we had. And then the big need here is to improve students' conceptual understanding for mathematics and really targeting algebra, because that's the, right, we want the students to get to advanced levels of mathematics, but we certainly want them to retrieve over 65 on the algebra. So for the math goal, we're using the MAP growth as the screener. And we're seeking that 3% increase for our all students, our MLL, and our SWD. And you can see just by the numbers that our all students category is a much higher passing percentage than our subgroups, our MLLs, our SWDs, and then down here the students in temporary housing. Again, very similar. We're doing the 1.5% increase for our progress monitoring sections for those time periods. And this is the actual plan. And again, what they're really asking us here is what are some of those new current strategies that we're using. So we're focusing on the depth of instruction, not on the pace of the instruction. So we're trying to avoid the temptation to rush to cover all the gaps and to really, have the teachers provide students with mini assessments throughout the lesson so that they're able to target individual students and to help those individual students. The second thing is to create those structures to position each student as a full participant in math and to recognize that participation is going to build their agency. And this is especially challenging for some of our special needs students. So we're going to really make that an initiative. Number 3 is use tasks that require reasoning, problem solving, and modeling. So too often we observe in the classroom that the students don't really have a connection with math because they can't see how it's being applied, that real world application. So that's what this is addressing. And last thing is to always include the students' ideas and thoughts, right? Students should have voice and choice and agency in the classroom. So that's what we're trying to do here. And to get all students to value their mathematical thinking. and to resist pedagogies that reinforce math as a discipline focused solely on right and wrong, so that there could be multiple, I don't want to say correct answers, but that there's divergent thinking in math, and that's really what we want to have the students and the teachers be supported in this. And, you know, knowing that we're coming back from COVID, I know that a big focus is going to be on SEL for the students. We're also trying to have SEL for the adults in the building. So again, it's this a layering of support for everyone that's in the building that's going to touch students, because we know that they're going to come back with a lot of challenges.
Bill, can I just interrupt you there? Just something that we've been talking about a lot, and I've also focused on, but I've been hearing from a lot of parents in the community and across the city, just around, as part of our planning, parents are asking for this mind shift change in terms of SEL, both at our middle school level as well as high school level, just in terms of, we know that teachers are going to work really diligently to make sure that they're filling these gaps, that we know that there has been lags in learning across the year, and especially at high school, we got to close those gaps very quickly. Yes. But one of the things that has been coming up a lot, I mean, I just had a parent call me from the Outer Banks about high school, is that, you know, teachers have this expectation about advocacy for students. They need to advocate for themselves. There's, you know, a disconnect that we also see in middle school, just around, you know, when kids aren't doing well, and then just expectations for students in general. And so what parents are asking is that there is discussions with teachers in the 7 to 12 licensing range that we're actually looking at students and the whole student and what they experienced. One parent said to me, you know, just in terms of like, throughout this pandemic, they feel like nobody was held accountable except for the student, right? So there was a lot of people that weren't rated, and, you know, but yet expectations were really not expectations. They were more like not taking into consideration what kids were going through. So as we evolve, I know many students have fallen apart this year. And I think what they're asking is that we talk to teachers about that, taking into consideration the, you know, the historical aspect of what students just went through and how that is affecting them socially and emotionally. It's not just about passing a Regents, right? And, absolutely. And how we can't get to that unless we do that. So now we talk about social emotional learning in a lot of different ways, but parents are asking that there be expectations for teachers layered into that too. Like, what does that mean when you are starting the school year knowing that kids are coming in back to school with high levels of anxiety? So they were asking that in our action plans for high school and for middle schools, that be included in there. Expectations that teachers must consider social emotional learning and not just academic lags. So I said I would ask that, and I would, you know, if you could present that to Elaine, that they're asking that be included in all of our, you know, elementary school is different, but in all of our middle and high school CEPs and within our DCEP, that expectations are layered in for teachers and coupled with training about really owning and considering SEL. Not just saying it, but then loading kids up with tons of work that's going to put them in, you know, under extreme amounts of pressure, right? So to be able to engage in conversations around that.
I'll definitely bring that to Superintendent Lindsay's table, and if we need to modify the CEP, we'll certainly do that. And I completely understand, agree, and echo that there should be an expectation that teachers are not just learning about SEL, but they're actually implementing it for our students, because they will never get to the Regents unless they really feel comfortable and they feel that teachers are on their sides as their best advocate.
Right. So they were really talking about changes of mindset. It came up a lot in our parent chats, you know, where they feel that, you know, teachers feel that they have a sense of ownership and accountability, and And there were a lot of parents saying very upset about not enough work happening with kids. So we had teachers, and I'm just speaking for some of the things that we saw, you know, in the K-8 realm. We had teachers just overloading, you know, students with work and not understanding the kind of pressure that placed on them. So, you know, we're going to engage in conversations at the DLT level around that work. So I just wanted to be inclusive of that, to let you know that that is a district parent ask, that be an expectations for teachers around SEL be made clear in CEPs and DCEPs.
It's kind of interesting that the superintendent and I are on the same page. When I reviewed it last night, and I was going to wait until Bill went through the sections, I didn't know he was going to be on. I wasn't sure, so I was going to go through it myself. In the needs assessment sections and the root causes, that's where also you should add something about the social emotional needs in every section, and the learning loss gaps, which the mayor is talking about and state ed is talking about, and in addition, the cultural relevance sections should also be strengthened. It says here student conceptual understanding. On the root causes, you've got the data, identify gaps in learning, you have that, and put in a little bit more about the social emotional piece, and then tie it to the action plan as the superintendent is suggesting. But also, I noticed that in the action plan, you had the cultural relevance, but it wasn't really reflected as much in the root causes and priority needs section.
Yeah, and I think it's also about conversations just in terms of, you know, sometimes when we engage in what students are going through, and we were connecting it to like grades and how teachers were assessing students' progress along the continuum of the standards. If we mentioned social emotional learning, very often, and I'm talking about the upper grades, very often the conversation came to like, but that's not what I do, right? And I think, you know, from myself as a middle school teacher, I could see myself getting into that world, because you do have standards that you need kids to know and grow in. And in order to do that, we become, you know, in the 7 to 12 world, laser focused on getting that done. So I think that is where conversations have happened during our parent chats of they want it in writing, they want it discussed at the SLT level, to really talk about, you know, SEL is not just expressing your emotions, right? That's one part of it. SEL is learning how to manage a lot of different areas and of emotions, and where a teacher's role layers into that is absolutely centered on expectations in a classroom, right? So now we've been talking about that for years, but returning from a pandemic, that is going to be extremely heightened. And so that's why parents are saying they want the rigorous instruction, they want high expectations, but they also want that SEL piece for the teachers, not just as a school, you know, a school vision and mission, because a lot of our schools have that. We do mood meter, we do Metamo, we do ruler, we do Sanford Harmony, we do a lot of different things, but they really want it to be in the classrooms, like reach the teachers. So, okay. Sorry, Bill, go ahead.
No, I'll definitely, as I said, I'll bring that back to Superintendent Lindsay, and, you know, infuse that definitely in those sections. That's very good feedback. Thank you.
Can I share a follow-up with that?
Sure.
So to your point, Danielle, and I thoroughly, completely agree with, you know, what you're explaining and what the parental component, what the parents are wishing for or saying that they need to see, because, you know, learning loss is real in this time. And I think that, you know, it's affected people, students, in this case, students, you know, everyone is affected differently. I'm wondering if the disconnect stems from, you know, the idea that you have to justify, I'm thinking like a teacher, where you have to justify a grade that you're giving a child. So you want to be able to say, we've provided all this work and I've given you all this opportunity to get your grades to a standard that's reflective of, your capabilities. But, it's almost like justifying the work that you've done for the year. You can't just give a grade if the grade is a poor one. You can't just give a poor grade and say, well, I gave the work and, there's nothing else I can do. Where does that fit in versus trying to, and not trying to overburden a child. So some children are going to do it because they're just going to. And I think that's where you're overworked and you're overwhelmed. That's where that comes in. But then I wonder also, are you giving that work because you're tunnel vision on providing grades or because you're trying to, for lack of a better word, justify that you're giving everyone an opportunity to, excel and get the best grade possible? Because I hear that conversation as well. How can this child hasn't been around and we're trying to reach out and we're trying to communicate with parents and we're trying to communicate with them when they do come on, but they're not contributing anything.
Yeah. So
work to, show that you contributed to class. And then the other children are also going to do that work. And now they're overwhelmed. So where does that balance lie,
So, I'm glad that you said that, Lamar, because I do think that is really part of a conversation that we should have with teachers right off the bat, just in terms of the space of wanting to address learning lags comes from a good place, right? And it is really about, we've had this year and a half of differences in instruction. Some students did it well, others really struggled through it. We know that they're entering here with learning gaps. But one of the things that I was going to share with you today, and I'll share this one right away, is we're going to be engaging in a lot of book studies across our schools using similar books, which I have also purchased these same books for our DLT, and we wanted to engage in this work with you as well. But what we're really talking about is this idea of grading for equity, right? So one of the things that we talk about just in terms of mindset is grading the work, not timing the work, right? So you can assess whether or not a child understands a standard, but this whole concept of, this is due Tuesday, and if you don't hand it in Tuesday, you lose 20 points, right? Or 10 points. Studies have shown that when you do that, you get a whole subsection of kids that once they lose the 20 points, they don't want to do it, right? And so I'm not saying we should, have extended deadlines. I don't believe in that either, because I do believe in teaching ownership and responsibility for workflows, right? But I think we have gotten stuck in this old traditional framework of how we accept work from students and what that means and the impact that it has, and what we believe we're teaching them just in terms of autonomy when we put those requirements there, right? So you have kids like myself that if I got a 0, I would cry. And then you have kids like my son who will say things like, well, after the first 0, everything else is relative, so I think we do need to understand students' perspectives around this work. There's that also, Lamar, one of the things that Maria Acagnelli, in the work that she's been doing with us around culturally responsive and sustaining education, she talks about this idea of being a warm demander, right? Where you could say to a student, I care about you. I want you to do well, and I want to work together with you. However, you have to do this assignment, right? And if you don't do this assignment, you're going to fail. But I think it's that connection where we say 100% of kids respond well in learning environments where they feel cared about by their teacher, right? And it's not today where it's just like, you are an expert in algebra, and me being in a classroom with you, I'm being exposed to expert algebra. It's more than that. Teachers have to allow students opportunities to know why they're there, and they're there because we care about them. And I think that's conversations that individual schools should have just about what cultures in the classroom looks like, Joe, I see your hand up.
Yeah, so I think you also have to change the mindset of the student and the families. So I think, I don't want to say it's a mistake, but last year with the former chancellor, he put in the heads of the families, look, you're not going to be negatively affected by the pandemic. Not going to affect your grades. No one's going to fail, blah, blah, blah. Now, I don't think all the families or the students realize that we need to get back to business, right? So now those standards are no longer applicable, and we need to now go back to rigorous education, and we have expectations of you, whether you return or not. But I think, we're all trying to get back, but I think we're still in that what's happening, because I don't think all families feel that their kids will be back or get it, that they're going to be back 100% in September.
Yep. Agreed. And I think that balance is what we should spend time talking about as a DLT, and something that we should promote with our SLTs as well, right? So it's about SEL and rigorous expectations, and how do you merge that and the impact that has on teachers in their planning for instruction and students in their engaging in instruction, right? So I think it's a good space for us to start it. Okay, sorry, Bill, keep going.
That's all right. So I'm going to move on to the
highlights.
Yeah, supportive environment framework. So here our priority needs are restorative approaches, collaborative trusting relationships, equity, student voice, and mental wellness. Again, you'll see that COVID-19 is definitely a root cause for a lot of this work. I'm going to scroll down just out of time, because I know that there's a few more sections. Here we're seeking a 5% increase from 48 to 53% of students who agree or strongly agree that students feel supported by teachers. And really the rationale for this is that the baseline data that we have is showing that students respond, that teachers support them when they're upset. So for District 25, only 48.5% of students responded that way. And we absolutely want to have this number increase. So part of our plan, and we've started this, Superintendent Lindsay has already had red table talks throughout the year, and some of these were videotaped. And this is really an opportunity for the superintendent to hear directly from students. These are, I believe that there's Zoom meetings where the superintendent is asking directly from students, how are they being affected by the pandemic? What are some of their challenges? What would they like to see schools do more of? What would they like to see schools do less of? So it's that real personal connection and touch with students. We're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to look at the data of these sessions. And
wait, can you go back? Can you go back up, Bill?
Yeah. You want to see the action plan?
Yeah. So I think, and this is something that we're going to be looking at when we evaluate CEPs across the district too, is that this is really where we can ensure that there are clear expectations for teachers around what this looks like, right? So sure. I don't necessarily know, and this is me too, going back and looking at our DCP. I don't necessarily know if that's made clear here, just around how, what does this look like for teachers? How are we working on SEL and classroom mindset shifts for teachers? What does training look like there? And what are our expectations there? So I think I'm not just saying that for high school, I'm saying that for us too in the K-8 world as well. So to maybe kind of go back and discuss this.
To review with and to have more of a teacher element.
Yep. So, and it's something that we could do K-12. That could be a K-12 model of, how can we support teachers in supporting students in the return from a pandemic?
Thank you. The next session, the next area is graduation rate. So the data trends, the graduation rate from 18-19 was 87. 19-20, 86%. And we're really trying to improve those NXs. That's still a sticky point. And I do know that the summer school model, many of the principals are having students come in this summer just to work on those NXs. That's definitely a large number of kids that are still doing that work. And again, the root cause is that lack of in-person service for students and trauma-informed instruction. So the goal here is to increase, baseline is 86.5. We want to increase 2% from 86 to 88.57. And this would be using pedagogical practices, including baseline assessments, advanced literacy strategies. The baseline would move from 60% to 70, and then 85% by April. And this is the plan to review those targeted schools and give support via the CEP action planning, looking at the data and curriculum review. And that would obviously include CRSA. And really what I'm hearing, especially from today's feedback, is that how are teachers specifically really going to help students with SEL, and how are we going to make that explicit and living in our documents and in the classrooms. One thing that we do is to showcase classrooms for the high school district. So this is really finding those exceptional teachers and really honoring them. So this is a practice we've done for the last few years. We're going to continue to do that practice. Now we're going to talk a little bit of college and career, the CCRI. So the priority is our special populations, SWD and Ls, to try to get them access to higher and more advanced courses. We do know that during the pandemic, certain schools had to shift away and they didn't necessarily offer as many advanced placement or honors classes as they had in the past. So we're really hoping that with all students going back to brick and mortar, that students will have more opportunities. But as we all know, we have to get the kids ready for those advanced classes. So that's going to be yet another hurdle. But I'm very hopeful that we'll get there. And again, the root causes, historically, our special populations have had either been denied access to those classes or really there weren't any systems or structures to support kids to perform well and to have access. Schools will also have challenges offering these rigorous courses and providing with resources and materials. I'm going to scroll down to the actual goal here. So for, this is a typo, this should be District 25. I'll have to recheck the data on this, but if this is actually for D25, it would be moving from 135 to 131. And this is the L2 RPT report that Howie has, Dr. Quaid has access to. As our data manager, he's really been instrumental, and I want to thank him for helping to create some of these goals. When we move down to this section, the progress monitoring, we're going to see how many of those students are actually entering into these advanced classes. And part of that is, right in our caseload of schools, we do have CTE endorsed diplomas from a variety of schools. So we're going to see that that's increasing. We're also going to check on our special needs students to see that CDOS is being added to their diploma, and that's, more students have access to those courses. And then lastly, it's the AP exams, and it's students receiving scores of 3 or higher on those exams. The next section is the MTSS.
Bill, before you leave the college and career, I just wanted to mention over the weekend, the mayor announced that resources are going to be made available, if I got it correctly, for counseling for every single student at the high school level in college preparation. I don't know if you've received or the superintendent has received more details on that, but that's a new initiative that should be, it's a citywide, should be reflected in the action plan going forward.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I haven't seen that. I do know that we have Cheryl Gill on our team, is the AP for All coordinator. She's been providing schools over the years with TL for AP, and I know that was like a grant line. So it's nice to hear that work will continue to happen in our schools. The next section is MTSS. So here we have Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports. So our Tier 2 is going to be a continuation of professional development for all students to address the identified lowest third, including SWD and L. It's going to be focused around CRSE with Dr. Muhammad and culturally responsive education with Dr. Dickey. We're also using Tier 3, which is going to be identifying those lowest third students. The AIS support is going to be one-on-one tutoring. It's going to be before, during, and after school. And then lastly, we're going to have the combination of Tier 2 and 3, which will be Cassell's framework for systemic social emotional learning. And this is really going to focus on self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship skills. And this continues. I'm not going to, so some of the highlights would be mentors. So students are assigned a mentor, often from outside of the school. That's going to provide positive role models for our students and also to promote an attachment to the school. We're also going to be using RTI, which is an academic intervention targeting those students with that are SWD and MLL. That's going to be the target group for the RTI. And let me move down. The Tier 2 and 3 supports is going to be, again, the Cassell framework. It's going to be small groups, one-to-one, before and after school. And I believe that concludes the report. The students in temporary housing, this is really just about the McKinney-Vento and how we're going to support schools with that. And this is really just showing the number of students in temporary housing for District 25, 345 students. Does anyone have any questions before I stop sharing?
I just want to mention to the DLT that Superintendent Lindsay's team obviously did a lot of work on this. It's very detailed and filled in, and it's a lot more sections than have ever been required in the past. So I want to commend the team on doing a fine job in putting together a draft document that we can fill in and adjust going forward.
Yep. Thank you very much, Bill. I agree. This is a very comprehensive report.
And I want to thank Gus for all of his help as well to you know, not only for the feedback, but just, you know, for different schools regarding their CEPs as well.
Yep.
Which is actually a good segue to our
next.
Yeah. Before leaving the high school piece, I just want to mention on Flushing, you saw the date. In June, we successfully met with Flushing High School on the last TSI support visit on the CEP. The district team was joined with representative from the executive superintendent's office, and everything went well. We also just held a support visit with Flushing, I think it was last week, on SIG. That's a school improvement grant final report. I don't believe they'll be getting any additional 6.6 money, but I've asked Dragomira Koleva to confirm that. But the state is requiring a final report of them, which is due at the end of the month. And we did a prep visit with them and went over the report, and we'll get that in by the end of the month. So a good segue to CEPs. I'm going to share my screen. Am I allowed to do that, Louis? You won't virtually arrest me or anything if I try.
No, Gus, you got it. You're good.
Okay. Let's see if it'll work. Okay. This is it. There we go. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great.
We see it.
This has been sent to you. It keeps revising, and I wouldn't be surprised if it gets adjusted again in September. But right now, where we are is June.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the
June 15th was the deadline, and principals were supposed to complete their attestation by by July 16th. I sent the congratulations to District 25. I believe you're the first in the city to complete everything, and I copied the executive superintendent on that as well. So your record, your stellar record, is intact. We now have the ability, and the district team is aware of this, to check in real time every CP and whether they've completed and which sections they've completed. It's a new feature. DLT members, you don't have access to that. It's only the district team that has been given access to that. There's a grid on the bottom of the iPlan face page, and it gives you in real time what the status is. I checked on District 25 over the weekend, and I believe you've done all of your attestments as well. You can check me, Danielle and Mike, but that was my, when I looked at it, it looked like you were complete in both categories, which again is stellar. So where we are now is by July 30th, the superintendent is supposed to certify the alignment of the goals with the budgets. I've been having some interaction with schools about their budgets, and I was a little surprised. I thought that all schools were going to be funded at 100%, and that the budget piece was not going to be an issue this year. But in my interaction with some schools, they've been telling me that that's not the case. I'm sure the district office has more insight into the budget piece going forward in terms of all of the schools in 25. Superintendent's dashboard will be used for the certification of the alignment. And given your record so far, I expect that the superintendent will probably certify everything, the alignment, ahead of time, before the 30th. What the BCO is the way it's running in Queens North is we have a excellent system that works, ladies and gentlemen, and I've advised Central and the executive superintendent's office of this. The district team is very experienced and has done an excellent job of reviewing all of your CPs and providing feedback to the principals. So I expect that that system is going to proceed as it has in the past, and that principals and the superintendent's team will be sharing feedback, and that feedback will help schools revise their CPs going forward. You see the deadline there is July. This takes place July, August. By September 10th, the principals are going to put the feedback in place. We'll see how this timeline evolves, given the changes and opening up of schools for in-person instruction come September. That's the plan right now. The system for feedback is the same as the past. There are these little bubbles that pop up for each section, for every AOC and I plan. People have grown accustomed to them by now, and that's where the feedback is put in. There is something new that the superintendent's team has actually, it's not new, it's something from the past, is we also will be providing the reviewers with some canned responses for issues that come up frequently, so they don't have to always write it themselves. Danielle and your team, look for that from me. I'm waiting for Central to send me both the PowerPoint for the review process, and they just completed. I think it was Friday that I saw the draft of those responses and how they'll work. Now, you don't have to use them. It's just another tool that we've made available in the past and that we'll make available again. Obviously, on an ongoing basis, what I do is help every school that reaches out to me on any I-plan or CP related issues, and I'll continue to do so until I leave on vacation, and then I'll be able to respond only through email while I'm out of the country, but I will interact with the district team by email. So this is the timeline. Again, I commend District 25 on doing such a wonderful job on the CPs thus far. Bill, I think Superintendent Lindsay is 100% as well. Last time I looked, do we have any stragglers? I think there was only one, if I remember correctly.
I believe we have two stragglers.
Two stragglers.
She is aware, and we're working on that.
Okay, were they 25 or they of the district?
No, they're not in 25. 25
Okay.
is good to go.
So you're 100% 25 at the high school level as well. Anything anybody want to add or any questions on the CP piece? Okay, if not, then I will stop sharing. I think this is the way I do that.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you, Gus.
Okay, and congratulations again. Bravo, I'm proud of you.
Thank you, thank you. So I just wanted to go over a couple of things aligned to what Bill and Gus had said. So just so we know, Bill spoke about the high schools using MAP as their assessment tools. District 25 will be using the following district-wide. In grades K to 2, we'll be using Acadience, which is the old Dibbles, for those of you who are aware of that. In grades K to 2, and then grades 3 to 8, we will all be using iReady. So I just wanted to put that out for you in knowing that a lot of the conversation that we'll be having at the DLT and that SLTs will now be having, just in terms of progress and benchmarking, is going to be aligned to those three tests. K to 2 is Acadience, 3 to 8 is iReady, and then 6 to 12 schools as well as 9 to 12s are going to be using MAP. So just so we know that. Secondly, we started talking about, as a DLT in the summer, we are at the forefront of hearing a lot of the expectations that are coming out of Central and how they're going to be aligned to the planning that we're doing in the district from the K to 12 perspective. And I'm going to go over that in a little while. But as we roll out September, one of the things that I would like to have for us right away is target those liaisons that are going to be on the DLT who do outreach to SLTs. I think it's really important for them to know, and especially now that we are so immersed in a deep understanding of where we are as a district, what are the expectations of Central, and how that's going to unfold in our district conversations and in SLTs. So one of the things we just talked about was SEL, right? How do we start talking about what the needs that we're seeing in, who is that? Is that you, Louis? What the needs that we're seeing, just in terms of where we are in SEL, the training and experience that we have, and how we need to move that to the next level and take that training to start changing mindset about what that looks like in the classroom. So we have that experience that we can be those knowing others and engage in those conversations with our SLTs. Because one of the things that I want to start setting goals for us is around, what are the trainings that our SLTs need? And I want to start doing that right away. What are some of the things that we're seeing about, now that we know our expectations and what that looks like and should sound like and feel like in schools? How can we start to organize things more than just an SLT training, right? I think we've arrived in terms of that. We do need to do the reminders. I think Gus's team, as well as Space, has done a really good job in setting up the different online trainings for SLTs, that we don't need to continue to do that basic SLT training, but really start to push our DLT goals and objectives and what that looks like and how we can support our SLTs in engaging in that, especially for the parent aspect of it, right? Like, how do we train them in what is important around our targeted goals and how we're going to move that across the district and the students that we focus on. And, you know, after I do our presentation, the reason that I'm saying that is because we do have a brand new CEC and they have a lot of very strong values and beliefs that they're going to align to create goals around what they want to see happen in the district. We want to be able to all speak from the same lens and get feedback from our council to say, maybe this should be part of our action plan, you know, in our DCEP. So Joe, I'll let you talk about that as I go towards the end of this, our work today. But I definitely think that taking all those things into consideration, that should really be aligned to the trainings that we put out there for our SLTs. The next piece, Esther and Gus, I know that you're going to work with both Taylor and Brooke, as well as Francis, to make sure that all of our schools have PACs. So this way we can get our DPAC in place and we can start to engage in that work where we're having district meetings with our PAC reps, so we can make sure that our Title I parent engagement money is really aligned in the way that we need that. So that's the next thing I want us to think about. And then before we go on to my presentation, I just wanted to take a moment to speak about summarizing. So, summarizing is a big undertaking, just so we all know, but we are doing it and we're doing it strong, right? We have so many families who are participating in our program. PS24 has over 600 students participating this summer. PS21 has almost 500. PS22 has 500. PS130 has about 400 people. So it just
499, 500.
Yep, all over our district, we are welcoming back our students for summarizing. The programs run in elementary schools from 8 to 6, and in our middle schools.
Monday through Friday for elementary schools, and then Monday through Thursday for middle schools.
Yep, from 8 to 4. Yep. So it's been a crazy week and a half, but I would like to really thank our principals, our assistant principals, our teachers who are willing to step up, just so everyone knows. And Lamar was great. I called Lamar and I asked him to speak to his chapter leaders because we wanted our students in District 25 returning. There are so many kids in Summer Rising who have not been back to school in over a year. I wanted our kids to see the faces of our teachers, people that they knew in their schools, and Lamar reached out to chapter leaders, and there are so many teachers stepping up to the plate to make sure that they're there. So I want to thank you, Lamar, for doing that. Before everyone was on, I was really thanking Andre, for his leadership and just talking about his constituencies, our school food workers, still making thousands and thousands and thousands of meals for our community. And now they're making 500, 600 meals for our kids during the day. They have just been a powerhouse through this pandemic. And I say, like, true unsung heroes. And I definitely, if you see a food service worker when you are in schools, say thank you to them. The other day I was at 165 visiting, and there was a bus of kids that came in late, and not only were the workers making food for thousands of community members, but they stopped and they made sure that those kids got the breakfast that they wanted. They offered them, additional food, and spent some time sitting with them and talking with them while they were eating. So just tremendous work, Andrea, and please, their work does not go unnoticed. The same for our school aides and our parent coordinators during this time with Summer Rising. Like, we as a district have really come together and just done some amazing things over the past 2 weeks to put this together. So I just wanted to say thank you to that. And then, of course, Mary, to our principals and assistant principals. I mean, I say just when I think it couldn't get any harder, it just goes to another level. I will tell you that You know, I was a principal. I understand the demands that go into running your school every day. It is 24/7. It never stops. You are always responsible for everything happening. Not only did our principals create online versions of schools that were not there before this year and continue to program and reprogram to make sure that our kids were in the building 5 days a week. And now they're starting to plan for next year. They are also planning for summer rising. So, and some of our schools, PS 22 has more kids in summer rising than the population of their school. So once again, when you see a principal and an assistant principal, thank them. It is a thankless job that never, ever stops. So I know that you know that I say that all the time, Mary, to the principals, but I do, want to say that publicly at DLT and thank you. Mary is running her own summer rising site as well. So thank you, Mary, for that. Okay, anyone have any questions? All right, before I go to my presentation, so Joe, I wanted to give you an opportunity maybe to speak a little bit about some of the things that we're hearing from our new CEC and how you think it's aligned to some of the conversations we're having today.
No problem. So thank you, Danielle. So this year we have quite a different CEC from the group that we had last term. Last term we seemed to focus on the special needs, but we have a whole new group who came in with a whole lot of enthusiasm and optimism, if not the mistaken notion that they can really make policy, right? So they think they can come in and bring about change. They're going to realize that we're not a school board, but they are going to look for, and they're going to probably look at the district to bring a more rigorous work environment. They're looking to, for the gifted and talented, the specialized high school admissions. They're looking for the hardworking students and protecting their rights. And they're going to ask for change because they've already started in the interaction between us. But they're going to realize that they're not going to be able to do it, but they're going to hold the district accountable to a lot of things. So just giving you the heads up on that. And I was fortunate to be elected as president. They may not like, how things end up, but they're going to learn that, yes, parents do have a voice, but we do not make the policy. So I think what they're looking for definitely aligns with what you have in the district plan. So I think it'll work well in our district.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe. And I also think something that you said that I think is really important. We've worked really hard around parent leadership and in working to create accountability structures that come from the superintendency level down to school boards, right? So, to our CECs. So they have been really clear exactly what you said around rigorous instruction and how we are going to close those learning gaps, but still maintain rigorous instruction and offer high levels of rigor and enrichment at the same time. So although policy is a different process between a school board and a CEC, they are very clear in what their expectations are of the superintendent, right? And so that is, it was comforting to know that what we have talked about at the DLT and how we set our DCEP plans are aligned to the expectations that they're talking about. But also you will see very similarly to what the high school goals were, our data still does show us that we do need to focus on different subgroups within our district that do show that there is special attention needed towards them in order for them to make progress. That does include our special needs students as well as our multilingual learners. So there's always that balance, right? But what we did hear from the CEC this week is that they want to recognize that balance on both ends. That although our data may show that certain subgroups of students need attention, that balance also needs to be addressed in terms of our high performing students. So they were very clear with that, and I appreciated knowing that off the bat. so and I'm looking forward to working with this new CC. I'm very excited about that work. Yep. Okay. All right. So Louis, could you put up the PowerPoint? I'm going to go through this
Yes,
very
I can.
quickly, guys.
This PowerPoint is an hour and a half long.
I know I'm not going to do it. I'm going to whip through it. Because I do know,
fine.
and we could spend more time going over this next month as well. But I did want to give you an introduction to something that the chancellor has just released this week. We have
So Danielle, you can actually take control. I'm uploading it. You can take control. You can do the slide. You'll see it
Okay.
coming up right now. Yeah.
Perfect. We have principal professional learning happening this week. So can I? Oh, yes.
Click, yep.
I just did. Yep. We have principal professional learning happening this week, and this is where we're going to start. But what I did want to talk to you about is what the chancellor is putting out in terms of expectations and how we are going to move to plan around that. This introduction is to get you thinking about next month when Dr. D'Antona and I start talking really about how we have created these foundational goals and action plans, and the fact that it is going to come from the chancellor's expectation and how we can merge them through your feedback to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the district. Okay, so I did have control, and now it says you turned off participant navigation, Louis.
So click, there should be a button that says take control. You see at the top?
Oh, there you go.
There you go, you got it.
I'm taking control. Okay, guys. So, all right, so I was going to do an icebreaker, but I'm not. But I do think that next month we should start talking about highlights and celebrations of our schools that we've seen across the year. And then as we plan to move into the next school year, what are some expectations that each of you have for our schools? So I am going to bring this slide back next month because I do think it's an important way for us to begin our conversations. So one of the things that the chancellor is introducing is 4 instructional principles. So what they have done at the central level is they engaged in interview with 70 stakeholder groups and thousands of families through borough town halls. And they talked about how the pandemic has impacted social emotional well-beings of schools, communities, and how we can address those to have a strong academic comeback in the fall. The following themes emerged across all stakeholders: concerns over disparities of resources and outcomes, concerns about the quality of instruction and learning, need for social emotional work that is targeted, and technology utilization, efficiency, and adequacy. One of the things that we've talked about in terms of theme 4 is that a lot of parents are saying they don't want the technology and the instructional technology that we've learned over this time to go away. And so how can we embrace that and continue to grow in that area? But these 4 themes we've talked about as a DLT. So it's not a surprise to hear that in meetings with different constituencies, these are the things that we're seeing. To address these concerns, stakeholders have made several recommendations. In terms of academic needs, we just mentioned this: strategies for addressing skill standards gap in literacy and math, and some of the things around school-wide academic intervention services, improvements in special education, and expansion in early childhood education. One of the things that we're going to continue to do around academic needs is MTSS, which is something that we've talked about as a DLT. But in terms of expansion of early childhood education, we're happy to say that 3K is coming here in September. So we're really excited about that too. Technology needs: ensure equitable access to technology and what that means. That's something that we're working on as a district. Lewis has been working very strategically with the borough, and what we're seeing is, although right now all of our schools have the technology that we need, some have more than others, and so we're going to talk about making sure that there is equitable access to technology across all our District 25 schools. Mental health needs: additional staff for our mental health. We have some schools hiring additional guidance counselors, schools getting social workers, and regular opportunities within the school day to support mental health for students and for teachers. And that's mentioned in the educators' needs. In terms of educators' need, create targeted time for professional learning development and coaching. This is really important and something that we're going to be talking about as a district this year. Both Mike and I, as we roll this out to principals, and then Lamar and I around, what are some of the learning that our teachers need to continue to do as we emerge from this pandemic, because there really is so much that we have grown and learned in terms of teaching and learning. And we want to be able to embrace that. We want to be able to support teachers that felt that they were not fully comfortable in using instructional technology and how we can build upon that. But then also really talking about how we get back to some of the things that we did really well, which was focusing on student discussion, student group work as we emerge from this pandemic. And then regular opportunities within the school day to support mental health of staff. We talk about students, and we talked about that earlier today, and I do think that is really important. But we also have tens of thousands of teachers across the city coming back to school for the first time as well, and it's something that we do need to address as people begin to return to work. I mean, it's not just New York City schools that are coming back. There's a lot of offices that are coming back for the first time. A lot of my friends who are starting to go back to Manhattan. So I'm actually seeing the emotional toll that plays, and it's something that we do need to focus on as a city and a district to take into consideration to make sure that our adults are supported too. Okay. So as we reimagine education for our students, we will focus on the 6 academic priorities citywide, right? So next month you're going to see, and this is going to be rolled out to principals this week, but next month you're going to see how these academic priorities will live in our DCEP goals and action plans. So first is focusing on early childhood literacy. We know as a district, we've been focusing on early childhood math. So that's a really good bridge for us to continue both. We will still continue with our early childhood math, but now we're going to start building in early childhood literacy practices, and our Acadience screeners that we're going to be using is really going to help us target the literacy needs of our students in the earlier grades. Next, ensuring a culturally relevant and sustaining curriculum in every school. CRSE, we've talked about that before, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit today. The CRSE aligned curricula work that we've been doing with Maria Akinelli is going to continue, and we're going to continue to build on ensuring that our curriculum, that students see themselves present in it, and what that looks like, sounds like, and feels like in our schools, and how our teachers are getting the supports and trainings that they need in order to plan for and implement culturally relevant and sustaining curriculum. Continuing to develop our students as digital citizens. We know that for the first time, we were asking both teachers and students to engage in a different type of learning, and as I said, how do we continue to build on that? Next is investing in special education. That is something that we will continue to focus on as a district. I know, as Joe had said, our last CEC, that was really their goals. And I will tell you, they gave, from their expectations of myself and the borough office, they really had us look at how we are really supporting these students and what that looks like within our goals and action plans. So we're going to continue to do that, providing greater support for multilingual learners and their families. That's something that we've also continued to do, as we are one of the largest districts in the city that has multilingual learners. And then ensuring our students are college and career ready. So instructional principles. So our academic recovery demands more from all of us to deliver on our instructional priorities and commitment to delivering educational justice for every student. Our schools are going to ensure high expectation and rigorous instruction for every single student, grounded in an asset-based mindset. Now, asset-based mindset is something that you've heard Dr. D'Antona and I talk about a lot, right? We started talking about it in terms of our work in special education referrals, really looking at knowing your students well and what they can do more than what they cannot do. We have been trained across the year, and I know for myself, when I went to college for education, one of the ways that they trained teachers was based on deficit thinking, like find the gaps, find the gaps, find the gaps. And so many of our teachers have, because we've been trained, we've thought through that way. Now we want to look at what students really can do well, and how do you use those strengths to develop the deficiencies that we're seeing. So that's one of the things that we're going to focus on. And it also does include social emotional learning in core instruction and what that means. So we're going to continue to focus on this work. This is not anything new, but the newness of it is going to be the conversations that we have and the training that we have for our school leaders and teachers. Developing and strengthening a welcoming and affirming school environment, daily relationships. This is exactly what we were talking about, like returning to school. What does that mean? How are we looking at the whole student? How are we looking at the whole adult and what their needs are, and how we can create supportive and inclusive environments in every classroom and school building so that everyone feels safe and affirmed and ready to engage in joyful learning experiences. This does include space for families, students, and staff to have one-on-one check-ins, to have town halls. We're going to continue with our parent chats. So all of those things that this talks about are things that we have started to do during this pandemic, and we will continue to do and plan for next school year. Implementing inclusive curriculum that centers on student voice and collaboration. These are things that, once again, when we talk about CEC expectations, right away, one of the things that the CEC prior said to me was that they wanted to see more opportunities for students to have a voice in what they're learning, and that includes planning of curriculum. So that's something that we're going to continue to do too. And then centering time for ongoing and targeted professional learning communities. You saw Bill talk about that, how the high schools are going to continue to work with their learning communities. And next month, you're going to hear about how Dr. D'Antona and I are going to bring back the learning communities that we have had and enhance them. Our teachers have done a tremendous job this year in meeting in both at the teachers who were teaching remote and the teachers who were teaching blended. And they spent a lot of time really trying to work through what that means to ensure coherence of curriculum. So our teachers worked all year centered around making sure that students both at home and in school had access to a rigorous standards-based curriculum. That did take away from some of the professional learning and planning that we had engaged in as a district, just in terms of what it was like to be in school together full time. So we're going to bring that back. We'll talk more about that next month when we roll out our goals. Now, these 4 pieces that we've talked about, just so everyone knows, they are all part of the CRSE. They are all part of the things that we've been talking about for the past year and a half as a DLT. So if you go into the state document, all of the instructional principles that the city has for schools is that they engage in these 4 principles, not just one, in all 4 principles together to create what their goals and action plans should be as a school. So one of the things that we're going to do with principals this Wednesday is ask them to prioritize within each of these 4 instructional principles to see where they feel the need to grow the most. Now, I know from our visits to schools during principal observations this year, a lot of our schools have focused on developing and strengthening a warm and welcoming environment, but they've also focused on high expectations and rigorous instruction and knowing students well. So these 2 we've gone through together as a district, but we're going to be working to make sure that our schools are prioritizing indicators within all 4 areas. So I want to see if I have the, you know what? Louis, I think I took away. So I wanted to actually show you, just give me 1 second, a way that we've done this. Give me 1 second. So I'm going through all my emails. Okay. Nope, that's not it. Here it is. Give me 1 second. I'm taking you to principal professional learning. So one of the things we're going to do with principals on Wednesday, not it? Sorry, guys, just give me 1 second. Yes, this is it. So all of these 4 areas, the instructional principles that I just mentioned, can you see this, Louis? No, what?
You're gonna have to stop sharing.
Oh, and then
share your desktop, and then I'll upload the PowerPoint again. We're up to slide 12.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yep, I see it.
Okay. So within these 4 instructional principles within the CRSE, what Dr. D'Antona and I are going to be talking to schools about is working with their school-based teams to find priorities within each of these 4 areas: welcoming and affirming environment, high expectations and rigorous instruction, inclusive curriculum and assessment, and ongoing professional learning and support. So one of the things that I think this is really important for us to know as a DLT and what we can bring to SLTs is these are clear expectations that everyone can understand, right? So now we're not just saying CRSE. Now we're talking about within welcoming and affirming an environment, as a school-based instructional team and the SLT gets together, if this is one of the areas that we're going to start looking at, there are certain priorities within each of these instructional principles that we can focus on, right? So let's just take something very, very quickly, like prioritizing social emotional learning programs. Many of our schools have mastered these. For example, PSIS 499 uses restorative justice circles that are models not just for the district, but for the city. So a school like 499 might not include that as their priority. Same thing for high expectations and rigorous instruction. Initiate student-led civic engagement projects and school-based student leadership opportunities. That might be something that a school chooses to work on together, and an SLT what they want to participate in. So what we're finding that giving this document to our principals will do, it will help them to guide their school communities, their leadership teams around decisions that they're going to make in areas that they're going to focus on and how that translates into their CEP. Okay, so now you're going to share again for me, Louis?
Yep, I'll upload it again.
Okay. I'm almost done, guys, I swear. So as he's uploading, I just want to speak to you about some of the books that I've purchased that's going to be inclusive of some of the book studies that we do as a DLT next year. So Grading for Equity is the first one that we spoke about. We're also going to be doing some work with Goldie Muhammad, which is Cultivating Genius. And that is about an equity framework for culturally and historically responsive literacy, and also asking schools and ourselves to engage in equity visits. So that's something that we are going to be talking about a lot over this year. Okay, I need to get control again, I think, Louis. No, yes.
Yep, you can do it.
Got it. All right. So the next piece that we're going to do just very quickly is something that we've already seen. As part of the work that we're going to ask schools to engage in from the beginning of the year is doing something very similar to what we did as a district with our district equity team. And that is revisiting your school vision and your school mission to make sure that the beliefs and values that each school has are clear, understood, and still relevant as we emerge from a pandemic. So we're going to go through with principals our expectation around what that can and should look like. So the first part of it is it needs to be grounded in data. So you guys have seen this just in terms of the work that we've done across the past 2 years around how we looked at district disproportionality data in terms of special education referrals and the impact it was having on our multilingual learners, particularly our Hispanic speakers, in looking at discipline and suspension rates, and also looking at students' access to AP and SP and honors classes in terms of Regents readiness. So we think it's very important to speak to principals that as you're going through your mission and vision, that you also understand what your data says, that it comes from a place where everyone can get together and look at strengths and weaknesses of both students and your school community. We talk about data. It's about a lot of different things that we should look at. We should look at state testing data. We should look at assessment data over time. We should look at suspension data. We should look at school survey data. We should look at a lot of different elements, social emotional learning data, a lot of different elements to get a clear picture of where we are as a school and to see if what we value and what we want to see for our students is represented in that data. If not, it's really part of changing how we go about things, which is also about redefining what our beliefs and values are as a school. Okay, so this is just a model for exactly what we went through in order to build upon our school mission and vision. And we talked about how everything that we said that we wanted just in terms of equity for students, if our data showed that we were only giving certain students access to Regents readiness, but our beliefs and values was that everyone should have that. And it's not represented in our mission and vision and what we look at every day and how we build our goals and action plans around, then maybe it's something that we should change. So this is something that we've gone through with you guys, but I just wanted to show you that we're going to do with principals as well. We looked at our old mission and vision, which was, here's our vision, right? And then we built it from our equity belief systems to this, right? So one of the things that we believed is not just having strong roots and strong schools, which we know is a value of our community, right? Strong foundations of learning, strong foundations of high and rigorous expectations build strong schools, right? But we also wanted to capture the fact that we are a very diverse community where we can grow and learn from each other just from our diversity. We wanted to celebrate and recognize it. So that's where in working with different constituencies, we moved from this, which is about growing together for our children's future, where we always talked about believing in collective growth of everyone, to now talking about from many roots growing together as one community. We represented and talked about empowering learners, where you see that within the CRSE, embracing each other's differences and providing equitable access and opportunity for all. So we're going to go through this with our principals, and starting next year, you're going to see in SLTs that there will be these opportunities for schools to revisit their values, their beliefs, to see if they want to change their beliefs very similarly to where we went from, right? And then to engage in a process, which is what our next steps are, that we're also going to talk to you guys about starting August and September, is if we have these ideas of empowering learners, embracing differences, and providing equitable access for all, what are our expectations, right? What does it mean to empower a learner? What does it mean to embrace differences? And what does it mean to provide equitable access? So those are conversations that we're going to be having all next year as a district. Okay, so that is it for me, just so you guys know. But I did want to give you some idea of the planning ideas that Dr. D'Antona and I are working through, as well as expectations that the chancellor is putting in place for schools to start planning and learning. Okay.
Does the DLT need that link in the chat or no?
Which one? The
one on your screen right now.
Yes. Can you put that in?
I can. Yes. The slides aren't being shared yet because they're not final yet. Yeah. But I can put that link in the chat right now.
So after principals fill this out, this is something that we will share with you, because what we also intend to do is look for similarities in what our schools are prioritizing, so we can offer more concentrated support to them across the year through both central, the borough office, and the district. Okay, any questions and comments?
Danielle, I just want to add something related to the data piece that you've talked about. Okay. I was on a call last week with the New York State Education Department about the whole accountability piece. As you know, and I've mentioned this before, all accountability statuses have remained frozen due to the pandemic. It doesn't make Flushing High School happy. They feel that they're kind of, accountability purgatory because they feel that they would have gotten off of the list if the pandemic hadn't frozen everything into place and there are no accountability changes. Now, the discussion with the state ed department indicated that going forward next academic year, the data is going to be important because it's going to be the first time after the pandemic that they're going to get some assessment based on standardized tests of various types. The discussion and debate within state ed, as I understood it, and this is just my impression of comments that they made, so it's nothing official, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to give you a sense of what's going on, is that on the one hand, they're going to get data based on the testing. On the other hand, they realize that the data is going to be skewed because of the severe learning gaps due to the pandemic. So the discussion is how we're going to use this data. Is it fair to hold schools accountable based on the information they get? Or is it better to just use it sort of in a general way, go and look towards the next academic year going forward to make any accountability decisions? That hasn't been resolved yet. There are discussions taking place. It's my understanding from the comments that they made on, you know, how any information they get next year will be used going forward. So during the course of next academic year, I think we're going to get more information about that. Danielle, I know you have your own information from state ed, so we'll see how that plays out. But I just want you to know that right now, there are no accountability changes as far as the state is concerned.
Okay, great. Thank you, Gus. Okay, anyone else? Questions, concerns? I think it's a good starting place, right? I mean, there's a lot for us to talk about, but I did want you all to be aware of the thinking, right, that we're going through, and how as you support and work through schools, you will see these footprints standardized across the city, right, and therefore across our schools. So, so we will be sharing more to come. And that is my report. So I'm glad we have high schools done. We have us done. So is there anyone else that would like to present anything just in terms of new business? Lamar or Andre, Mary, Francis? Nope.
No, Danielle, I'm good.
I'm good. Thank you, though.
Okay. All right, everyone. So we did include our next meeting, which is August. Give me one sec.
August 16th, Monday.
Yep. Monday, August 16th. So we will see you all then. Enjoy your summer. The district office is open. We are just an email, phone call away if anyone needs us. So thank you, everyone, and enjoy your day. So can we get consensus to adjourn, because we can't motion anymore? Consensus, everybody's good? Does anybody want to stay on this meeting? Okay, no, we're good. All right, so thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you all. Have a nice summer.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Stay safe, everybody, and cool. Louis, I'll call you.
I'll stay here. Hold on.
Have a safe trip, Gus.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I hope to see you at the next meeting.